Ollie, you were first.
Maybe I can stay and find some other nice people who will like me and accept me for who I am.
Like me and accept me for who I am.
Trusting your spirit. Yes, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking
Trust
about.
in your spirit. Trust in your spit. I'm gonna pop out this chat real quick so I can say what up. What up, chat? Chitty chat. Hey, chat. Hey, friends. Peace and respect from Malaysia. Well, peace and respect right back at ya. We just created world peace. Easy as that. How am I doing? I am doing uber super. Super duper uber. Hey, Gothic Rose. Welcome, welcome. How's the baby in the tum-tum? And there's Jensen. He's the first to poop in the shower, always. Talk about peeing in the shower, but now we're just gonna go straight to pooping. Funny story about that. Yumi, hello. Joel gets Vietnam flashbacks of the Buttersock War. I do. I heard them in their squishy, squashy socks sneaking up on my battalion. Yeah, 5 seconds in, world peace, check. Easy. GG easy, world. We figured it out. Oh, you study in the UK. Nice. Maybe you'll hear some locations you're familiar with. I'm going to do the entire thing like speaking like this, and hopefully no one's going to call me out for it, eh? What do you say? Just kidding, I won't be doing any of that. I would rather neck myself. Just kidding. I've been keeping you company for over a year. I'm glad I can be there for you. You guys have been keeping me company for quite some time, especially during these streams. It's very nice to, I'm going to be recording anyway, as I always say, so it's good to do it in the company of good people. Hey, Mr. Ghoulie. Welcome, welcome. Timothy, thank you. I try to be a good bloke. Oi. I feel like I'll learn a British accent by watching Andy from The Office. Jensen's unsubbing. He's too much Harry Potter. True Stories from Hogwarts, Part 50. Slim's doing a free grooming. All right, that sounds a bit sus. Austin, I'm very sorry to assume your personhood. From now on, I'll just assume everybody in the chat's an AI generated by Elon Musk to give me some viewers. I still need to get a cat bed for underneath my desk because the cat spends so much time underneath there waiting to pounce. He just needs a bed. As soon as he hears me start talking, he's like, okay, time to scratch on something. Oh yes, I should share this on Twitter. Let's see. Recording scary story. Scary United Kingdom stories live. It's been sent. The deed is done, sir. Very good, very good. Grimes was created by Elon Musk. Yeah, I was saying in that one of the comments in the Genesis music video was Elon finally made his favorite sim come into real life. Would you be surprised? I don't think so. Nothing really surprises me anymore. I'm gonna read for you today. I am. For the first 20 minutes or so, we just chill and you guys get to AMA, you know, ask me anything. And you can ask me anything throughout the entire stream. But I just like to chill out and chat with you guys until we get everybody kind of rolling in here. But I will be reading some stories tonight. There will be 7 stories in total, but I figured what better time than any to have our good friend Lazy Masquerade narrate a story in collaboration to, you know, for tomorrow's video. So Lazy actually already sent me the narration for one of the stories, and so one of the 7 stories will be narrated by him, so we'll be doing about 6 of them live here, but then you'll hear everything tomorrow. Favorite ice cream flavor? I just like anything with peanut butter, really. I kind of enjoy those, like, I do like the fruity flavors too. I mean, you really can't go wrong with ice cream, though I've never been a huge fan of like the mint stuff, you know, mint chocolate chip. A lot of people like that, and I appreciate it because it's still obviously amazingly delicious. But on the top tier ice cream flavs, mint chocolate chips is just not my cup of tea, not my cup of cream. Do I like Pirates of the Caribbean? You know, I can't. I mean, I watched it when they had first come out, but there's been so many now to the point where I just like I have no idea what's going on in it. And I remember like, are they on like 5 now? 5 of them or something like that? Because I remember seeing like the first 2, and then just not caring about the 3rd or 4th one, but then randomly going back and to the theater to end up seeing like number 5 or so. I don't even know. It was, they all just kind of like blend together in like a mishmash of pirate bullshit. Hey, Madam Bunny, with the $7.65. Says, keep up the great work. Thank you, Madam Bunny. Thank you. I shall do my best. Mr. Gooley says plain vanilla ice cream, maple syrup. Oh wow, I've never had ice cream with maple syrup before. Is that a Canadian thing? Deadleaf Clover in the house. Deadleaf, you got any stories lined up for us? The Last Pirates was bad. Yeah, I mean, like, I just wish that movies would kind of like design their story based on something that was previously successful within like literature or other pop media or whatever. Just sometimes whenever they kind of like feel like they force it out, it just seems a little unnecessary. If I wanted an exotic pet, what it would be? Definitely a tiger or some sort of big cat, though. I can barely even trust my own. As I walked, you know, you turn out, you go to the bathroom at night, you turn out the bathroom light, you start to walk back to your the hallway, and my cat tries to kill me. He'll just sprint after me and try to get my ankle, and I can only imagine the if that's instinctual in like a little baby cat, what you can expect a big cat to do to you. I think he wants out too, so I'm gonna let him out. But then I know for a fact as soon as you let him out, he's gonna smash his body to one in again. So I'll be right back. Favorite scary movie? I don't know. I definitely love The Shining. Do I know the Muffin Man? I do know the Muffin Man. I haven't seen him in quite some time. Hey, Lils. Welcome, welcome. If you heat up the maple syrup over the stove or in the microwave, then pour it on the top of the vanilla ice cream. It's the bomb. It turns into a bomb? Jesus, dude, that's crazy. Do I have my own... Oh, dude, you have your own hallway? Whoa. I know. It's pretty sick. You can just like walk up and down it at night, and when it's dark, you can look down it and feel creeped out. It's really cool. Not everybody in the world has that luxury of a long spatial walkway that leads to various other rooms. Best scary movie you've watched last? I don't know, honestly. I actually did watch a scary movie on Netflix about 2 nights ago. It was called like Into the Tall Grass or In the Tall Grass. And I swear to God, it was as if though Stephen King went to like our No Sleep, found a top voted creepypasta for the week, and was just like, all right, making a movie out of that. And it's not to say that that's not a terrible idea, for inspiration, but oh god, it was so pointless. It was definitely like 0 to 100 like real quick, which was a little insane. Which initially got me excited. I was like, oh, okay, if it's already at this level of insane, who knows where this is going to go. But man, it just like really lost steam. And then a lot of its like reasoning behind everything was very derivative of like previous Stephen King works. Almost like copycat, borderline for the It movies. And just like that typical ancient evil bullshit, which is fine, whatever. But I sometimes kind of feel like throwing everything to some old comet or alien or interdimensional creature is interesting and definitely creates a basis in some sort of abstract reality, but tends to get a little lazy, I feel like. Gothic with the 2 Canadian maple syrup on the top of vanilla ice cream, Dollaroonies, says, hope y'all have a great weekend. Thank you, Gothic. Thanks for being here, modding. Always appreciate ya. Caitlin, what is good with them googly eyes? Parasite. I want to see Parasite. I have, what's it called? The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and the kid from Twilight. So I definitely would like to peep that here soon. Where can we see you? Yeah, if you want to see me, I am in the Discord. We have a Discord link down below, or one of the mods can link it here. Invite you to that. You go to the selfies text channel and you can click on the pinned messages and you'll see my lovely mug in all sorts of various forms. Also, another motivating factor for people to come join the Discord is the other night I just didn't really have quite the energy to stream on here at the time, or I was a little bit aloof in my organizational skills, so I was actually streaming live just for everybody that was in a particular voice channel for Discord, and it was nice because you can set it so that only I have the ability to speak and everybody else is muted. So it's just kind of like basically like this, but probably a little more raunchy because I don't care in that scenario. And yeah, so a little motivator to come over to Discord is that you'll get to have a little bit of a one-on-one session with me. I think there was only like a total of 10 people in there at the time, so it was quite personal. And we got a chat going in there as well, so you can just say whatever you want to say. Free speech, man. No judgment. All right, my cat actually does one out now. Mouth sounds. That's my... Do they have any ASMR channels just called that? Mouth sounds. You want to... Yeah, we got all sorts of all sorts of various AIs existing within the Discord you can become friends with. Yeah, a lot of people have become good friends with each other, so... 'Tis a good time. Ollie came home drunk yesterday and figured out I sent so many drunk texts to a few wrong people caused a whole lot of awkwardness today. I can tell you, yeah, that's always definitely an awkward moment. And they're like, hey, got your message? Yeah. Tell you a dad joke. Hello, dad joke. I'm dad. I have no idea. Dad jokes just, you can't force a dad joke out. They must come naturally from the stars. They're truly inspired, divinely inspired topics and comedy. How old am I? I'm 29 years old. Actually, will be 30 in June. So that is an interesting thing to say. Because boy howdy has 10 years flown by. Because for the longest time, you know, say 2015 or something like that, not that long ago, to me it feels like, just remember like referencing the year 2010, and I guess now I'm referencing the year 2015, and yeah, just time sure does fly by. 10 years gone like that. Law imagine aging. I know, it's technically not supposed to happen. Have I watched Servant? I have not watched Servant. Is it good? Dad jokes are like farts. They just seep out of you. Oh, Emma, you'll be 30 as well. Emma, I have promoted you to junior mod on the Discord. Congratulations. We will be having a ceremony for you. A knighting ceremony later. Fitting the UK vibe. Oh shit. Almost knocked over my Boba Fett mug. Boba Fett mug. Alright, another 3 minutes and 30 seconds. We will kick off the narration tonight. Like I said, we're reading stories from the beautiful United Kingdom. Who knows what will happen? We'll start the revolution. But over there. Congrats, Emma. Congrats. Hey, you turned 30 last August, and I don't know what to even feel because it's such a big build-up all through life to being 30, but it's just another birthday. It's bizarre. Nah, I feel ya. It's sort of like, I don't know, just a strange sensation because now it's like I don't know, to me I'm like, oh, you know, you do a crime or something, not that there's any crimes to do or anything, but, or like you say you die, and like, I mean, people will still say they're young, but they're not going to be like as baffled when you get taken out as if though you were like 21 or something. Or like, say you're still, I mean, it's weird, like I kind of feel like I'm still doing essentially the same shit I was doing back at 22, you know, which sometimes I'm like, oh shit, maybe I just need to like take that leap of sacrifice, of responsibility to adulthood. Obviously you can't force it, but it's just such a strange concept. Be 35 soon. Yeah, I mean, dying is a crime. They should have legalized it, I know. It's just weird because I feel like, I don't know, there's just this like strange gap of like between the ages of like 18 and 35 where I just feel like we all kind of consume the same sort of media. So a lot of like our internal culture and senses of humor are like so similar, yet there's this sort of like social taboo, whereas if though like you shouldn't be sitting there spending hours staring at TikTok memes, but it's like, I don't know. I don't think my sense of humor has really evolved in the past 10 years. Maybe it's gotten a little bit more refined, more capable within certain contexts, but at the same time, I still just enjoy hearing people tell a good fart joke or a shit joke or a diarrhea joke, you know, all those pinnacle of comedies. Make cheese for dinner, just cheese, just microwave some slices. Birthdays are good for you. Those who have more birthdays live longer. That's a good point. Kind of sad, but also strange. And I guess, I mean, not to get too personal here, but speaking of birthdays and death and all that kind of stuff, my grandfather is kind of going through that whole process. Hey, Alyssa Trospa. Welcome. But he's struggled with some various clotting issues over the years, some heart problems, and has reached the point of hospice care and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it's just interesting because when you're that old and you kind of like see it coming, I think it's kind of a good thing because he's been able to make a lot of plans for, or a lot, you know, kind of mentally prepare for that process, which has been good. And yeah, the sort of mental process of death and dying and stuff. So and I think it's helped the family to kind of cope with that as well, because he definitely is the sort of patriarchal individual. Same with my grandmother. They're both kind of going through similar health issues. But there's a certain curiosity when you can kind of observe someone who is nearing their death, because I don't know, it must be such a strange sort of reality that you have to face, and certain decisions that you have to make internally. And I think a lot of people do come to terms with it, but no, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's, you know, he was a good man, and but I think a lot of people at death are very drawn to like spirituality, and I think that's probably one of the best things you can lead someone to. You know what I mean? Because they, I think that's where you find the internal peace. Because Lord knows I don't want to like look at life as some sort of hopeless mishmash, you know what I mean? I just don't think that's by comparison very satisfying. But anyways, talking about sad things, I apologize. I'm not trying to bring anything on that. It's more just sort of do I know any British slang? Just tea and crumpets, chips for French fries. I'm going to be switching over to some dark tones here of Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse. He's linked down below if you want to check him out. I want to thank Chill Hop Music for providing the Chill Study Beats for Jazz and Lo-Fi Hip Hop Mix 2017 on that last beat. Pretty dope. Tossa, yeah, you fucking Tossa. Are you Bellend and all that kind of stuff I enjoy. Porcelain Panda, when you die, you want to be thrown in a hole in the ground and have a tree planted on top. I want to be tree food. I think that's fair. My grandpa wanted to be cremated. Because I think at the end of the day, like, it's crazy, like, it's like you're legally obligated to bury a body when it dies. Like, say a family, like, your grandpa or whatever dies, you can't just, like, take him out back and feed him to the wolves or, you know, throw him in a very deep ditch and bury him. You know, it's like you got to go through. Sometimes funerals can cost like upwards of 10 to 20 grand or something like that, and you're legally bound to abide by that. And to me, that's such a sickening thing, you know. Or like whenever you inherit a house from someone, all of a sudden you have to pay like death tax. Like, Jesus Christ, like the government is such a nefarious entity where it finds any possible way to abuse its legal boundaries to take more and more of your own property, your own money, and it just makes me sick. You know, you're going through a very difficult process, and they're like, "Oh, don't forget us. We deserve some of your money from them dying. You got a license for that grave. You got a license. Oh, you want to burn them, turn them into ash? Oh, you're gonna have to pay a wee bit of gold." Yeah. Do I know Markiplier? I've watched Markiplier. I've never met him. Seems like a really good guy, though. You know, never really seems to have any sort of drama surrounding his. I mean, to make it that big and to have like no drama around you, that's pretty impressive. Oh yeah, Fry. That's what they did in South Park. Whenever Kenny died or whatever, and then they cremated him, and then Cartman thought that he was chocolate milk mix, so he mixed it in his milk, and then like Cartman started having like premonitions from Kenny's spirit because he like drank Kenny's ashes. It was pretty funny. It was like the episode whenever they like were building the tower to heaven. Alec Vega with the 5 says, "Hope everyone's doing great, and it was my birthday. I turned 23 also. Did I miss anything?" Nothing yet. We were just kicking it off. Was letting everybody know that a story will also be narrated by Lazy Masquerade. So that most likely I'll read a story, and then Lazy will narrate the following story, and then I will narrate the remaining 5 stories after that. So he'll get a brief. You guys will get a brief taste of the amazing Lazy Masquerade. Oh, B-Buster just uploaded. Well, you gotta. Hey, don't. This is all just for fun. Don't miss Mr. B-Buster. He's a good man as well. I hope to have him on the channel here for some future collabs as well. Do I watch any sports? Yeah, definitely watch football. I mean, I realize it's kind of just like a mindless thing, but I don't know. As I get older, I start them just kind of marveling at the fact of these the size of these guys, or where you see someone that's just massive and you think to yourself like, oh, they've got to be 40, you know, and they're a beast, and then you're like, oh nope, they're 21, and they're 6'5", they weigh 295 pounds with full beard, and they will rip you in half with their arms alone. Yeah, the Packers are getting their fudge packed right now, it seems like. Let's see, what is the current score? Not this. Oh, they're making a comeback. Honestly, the Packers are kind of a comeback squad, but they've got 7 minutes, 15 seconds, 34-20. San Francisco is up. I've been very impressed with San Francisco. I mean, I didn't see that coming, but Bosa, what a defensive player there. What a beast. I believe was he out of Ohio State? The Pack is back. Oh my God, sorry I'm late. No, you did not miss anything. What animal would I be? Oh shit, who knows? Maybe like a naked mole rat, or I definitely think being like a hawk, some sort of bird of prey would be pretty cool, because they just seem to kick ass, like everywhere they go. Like nothing can really fight them, and just fly up in the air. Whenever one flew into my chicken coop that we had out back, it just ripped the one chicken to bits. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't able to take on me, the evolved man, with me and my broomstick, which is actually a pretty intense experience, because that freaking thing was massive, and I came in to save the other chicken. It was funny because the hawk like scurried across the floor, like it normally like kind of flies to where it's going, but it just scurried and then got on top of the one chicken to like peck its eyeballs out. But then I hit it with a broom. And it was just, the face that it made was just like, what the fuck, bro? What is this? No one's ever challenged me. And then I just like kept whacking him till eventually it was just like, ah! And then he like flew up into the netting that's above the cage and got wrapped in it. And then I'm like, God damn it, now I gotta like get him out of this. So like once I was able to like fandangle him out of the netting, he like flew up in the air out of the netting and then just like flew into the woods. And I was like, I am all that is man. I am a god amongst the beasts. But yeah, I am the American balding eagle. I am. I was more bald than he was, so we're good to go. You would be Kim Possible. The Hawk versus Reed. I read him. I soothed him with my voice. I said, hey now, you've just killed my favorite chicken. Prepare to die, you piece of shit. I fandangoed him. Alright, let's kick this off. Sorry to ramble on here, guys. Complicated business. Being a reader. Do I believe in the goat man? Hell yeah. I believe in goats. I believe in men. Damn right I believe in the goat man. Remember when you were a teenager and one of your parents... Fuck. Off to a good start. Someone's gonna have to keep track of how many mistakes I'm having here. Usually I just need to like get a mental rhythm going. Fuck it, let's do it live. What does it mean when you have that tool by your name? Oh, that's a moderator. Basically, they keep track of the chat and make sure nobody's a bad boy or girl. But yeah, click that like button if you haven't already. I'm pretty sure that helps to let YouTube know that everyone's enjoying the stream and that it should notify more people of the stream. I wish it notified a shit ton of people. That would be awesome. But it's almost like you have to like... The annoying thing about YouTube is when you make videos, rather than giving it like a 1-to-1 ratio of letting your subscribers know a video is out, it always just seems like you have to work really hard to get the views that you anticipate to get. Like, most of the views people get on their YouTube videos are like from suggested, where it like suggests their videos to you, you know? So, if you do turn on the bell notification and you really want to get notified of stuff, make sure you set it to like, instead of like curated suggestions, make sure you set it to like all videos. Hey Sue Ann, welcome. Yeah, pooper scooper for e-boys and girls. Yeah, scoop up my poop. And then, or follow me on social media. I got that in the top right. It's Let's Read Creepy on Twitter and Let's Read .official on Instagram. That's linked down below. You will be kept up to date when things are popping off. Remember when you were a teenager and one of your friend's parents went away for the weekend? The excitement was palpable, right? In fact, I'm pretty sure when teenagers hear their parents say, weekend away, a series of events are set in motion that will inevitably end with their family home being trashed by drunken pubescents. So back when I was 19, word came down that a friend of a friend was... So back when I was 19, word came down that a friend of a friend was having a house party on a Friday night. Now this was past the point where the first few house parties had ended with various kids being grounded for life and all that. So the emphasis was on making Janet Dillingham with the 5 says, going to meet my kids at the Pink House restaurant in Savannah, Georgia. Have a great chat, everyone. Oh, thank you, Janet. That sounds pretty yummy. Is that steaks? Red meat. I'm frothing at the mouth thinking about it. So the emphasis was on making sure... Fuck, dude, I don't know why I'm messing this up. So the emphasis was on making sure word didn't spread. Okay. So the emphasis was making sure word didn't spread too far so the party wasn't crashed by strangers, psychos, and strange psychos. Some way, somehow, news of the party was kept to a minimum, and when myself and a few mates arrived at the house late on Friday evening, it was actually kind of chill. So for a few solid hours, we chatted, drank, smoked, and showcased music to each other through the auxiliary cable hooked up to a small but powerful iPod dock. A few hours later, I'm getting pretty tired, feeling worse for the wear after a few cans of cider, so I decided to call it a night early. I say early, it's about midnight at that point, and my mates aren't nearly ready to stop drinking, so I head home alone. It's a short, quiet walk, and I climb into bed pretty much the moment I get home. A few hours later, I honestly couldn't tell you what time, I got a phone call. I roll out of bed, annoyed at whoever has decided to... I roll out of bed, annoyed at whoever has decided to call at such an ungodly hour. Caller ID says it's my friend Tom, who had also been at the house party. When I pick up and ask him what he wants, he tells me that Mike is dead. Mike is a mutual friend who'd been at the party too. I can hear people muttering in the background, almost like they're trying to keep their voices down. So my first thought is that it's a prank of some kind, and a bad one at that. I remember telling him pretty clearly that I didn't think it that it... I remember telling him pretty clearly that I didn't think that was funny in the slightest before promptly hanging up on him. I got back into bed and fell back asleep. Since I had arrived home late pretty drunk and also had my sleep interrupted by that tasteless prank call, I slept in way late. I remember waking up briefly around 10 a.m., checking my phone and finding no missed calls or texts. That was what reassured me that it had indeed been an attempt at a crappy prank. If he was for real, surely Tom would have called or texted again. But he didn't, so yeah, I thought nothing of it. That wasn't until I was woken back up by a knock on my bedroom door. It was my mom with the kind of serious look on my face that I rarely saw, if ever. "Get downstairs right now," she hissed. When I asked why, she looked straight up angry. "Get out of bed right now. Put some bloody clothes on and go downstairs." I had no idea why I would be in trouble with her, so I was in an awful mood by the time I'd put some pants on and wandered downstairs into our family's TV room. In there, sitting on the couch, were two men, dressed very smartly in suits and ties. That's about the time that Tom's phone call flashed in my mind. There was no way these two could be connected, but as soon as they spoke, I knew what was happening. "Good morning. We're from Merseyside Police. Your mum said it would be all right if we had a word with you." I was 19, a legal adult. They knew well that they could just take me down to the station if they wanted to, but they didn't. They were being way too nice, almost as if though they were here to give me some very bad news. "Mike is dead, isn't he?" I remember asking. When one of them nodded their head, I felt awful. One of my best friends in the world had tried to tell me something world-shattering, and I basically just called him a liar. The police guys asked me a load of questions, basically none of which I had the answers to since I'd left the party early. When they were done, they thanked me and left before I immediately got on the phone to Tom to apologize and get the full story. What haunts me to this day is that the whole thing had gone down just a matter of minutes after I'd left. According to him, Tom had said his goodbyes to me, closed the front door to the house, then headed into the kitchen to get another one of his beers out of the fridge. He said he noticed some kind of argument going down around the kitchen table, with a few guys and girls heatedly exchanging opinions, but he didn't think too much of it. What's a little debate between friends, they thought. But this was the start of an argument that would end in death. Mike, the guy in question, had apparently been flirting with a girl he'd known for a while. However, this girl happened to have a boyfriend. Mike apparently didn't know this at the time and was defending a little harmless flirting while the girls were telling him he was wrong. Wait, he wrong? While the girl... Shit, sorry, this sentence just seemed confusing. Mike apparently pooped his pants. What's a superhero name? What's my superhero name? The Destroyer. The Destroyer of Taints. Sorry, I can't think of any family-friendly superhero names. The Kool-Aid Pickle. Is that someone's? Okay, so Mike didn't know this at the time and was defending a little harmless flirting while the girls were telling him So the girls were telling him how wrong he was to have such... Okay. Urbex stories. Yeah, we'll have to look into that. See if I can compile some of those, because... The foot lettuce. The almighty Zeus. Mike apparently didn't know this at the time and was defending a little harmless flirting while the guys were... Fuck, sorry. That's my name, fuck, comma, sorry. My catchphrase. Mike apparently didn't know this at the time and was defending a little harmless flirting while the girls were telling him how wrong he was to have such a casual attitude about it. Whatever happened, the girl he'd been flirting with had actually called up her boyfriend, who lived just a few streets away, to tell him about it. Now, I hasten to add that she was in no danger at all. Mike wasn't a creep or a perv by any stretch of the imagination, so the only reason she'd opted to call her boyfriend was to cause drama. Apparently, the boyfriend was a bit of a psycho anyway, and the girl called him knowing well he'd overreact and try to start a fight or something. Only he didn't choose to start a fight, anything at all. Oops. 100 kids just learned the F word. If all the kids are over the age of 30, then sure. I didn't hear a single swear till I had my... Oh, fuck, I pressed record. Only he didn't choose to start anything at all. He did. If you're sleeping, send me your dreams. If you're crying, send me your hurt. I'm on the toilet. What do I send? Say what? Mike apparently didn't know this at the time. Miss Necessary, thank you for keeping track. Mike apparently didn't know this at the time, and was defending a little harmless flirting while the girls were telling him he was wrong. Oh, fuck, dude, I actually went way back. Why did I do that? Whatever happened... Oh, yeah, fuck. Whatever happened, the girl he'd been flirting with had actually called up her boyfriend, who lived just a few streets away, to tell him about it. Now, I hasten to add that she was in no danger at all. Mike wasn't a creep or a perv by any stretch of the imagination, so the only reason she'd opted to call her boyfriend was to cause drama. Apparently, the boyfriend was a bit of a psycho anyway, and the girl called him knowing well he'd overreact and try to start a fight or something. Only he didn't choose to start anything at all. He chose to end something that night. Mike's life. It was actually Mike that answered the door when the boyfriend arrived, and all it took was a simple little, "Are you Mike?" for the boyfriend to realize that this was the guy he was looking for. But instead of shouting at him, shoving him, or even throwing a punch his way, the boyfriend took out a butcher's knife and plunged it into Mike's chest. The way Tom tells it is absolutely harrowing. Mike had run through the house, running on pure fear and adrenaline, with blood practically pumping out of a hole in his chest. The adrenaline was enough for him to actually scale the brick wall at the back of the house, before he collapsed and died in an alleyway, surrounded by his terrified friends. This was all right about the time. Oh, whoops. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Psycho boyfriends, I will never understand it, dude. This was all right about the time I was walking home on a quiet March night, feeling at peace with the world. I thought it was just another quiet spring night, but I was walking away from a murder scene. I was all chill, getting into bed, thinking everything was right with the world, and my friend was bleeding to death in a freezing alley. And that's something I don't think I'll ever get over. Well, shitskis, that's... fuck. I feel like I shouldn't start with that story, because that's, like, actually sad as fuck. It was so so calm, and boom, all the calmness went down the drain. Milk or cheese? Why not both? Why not just churn a bunch of cheese in your mouth to it, or milk till it turns to cheese? I wonder if you can turn cheese back into milk. We gotta figure that out. It's very important. Chiefs and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Interesting. That's actually I think, a really exciting matchup, because that's some pretty young teams, in my opinion. And I will be interested to see. Yeah, I remember Billy was a big fan of the 49ers. He's probably watching that game. That voice is Gucci. So the next story is actually about a car chase, but that one will be read by Lazy Masquerade. Lazy Masquerade. Who's smoking the devil's lettuce? You best be careful. So funny, I was watching this guy XQC. He's like a streamer on... He's a streamer on Twitch. And he became... he started out as an Overwatch streamer. And then he got into Overwatch League. And then he said some, like, bad things or whatever that got him, like, fined on the Overwatch League and briefly banned from Twitch for a little bit. But then all that kind of publicity ended up kind of, like, escalating his popularity. And then he ended up having just as much success doing variety stream as he was whenever he played Overwatch. And, once in a while I just kind of check in on him to see what he's doing. And he was playing some sort of, like, it was like H1 Battle Royale or some bullshit, another one of those stupid Battle Royale games. And it was just so funny because, all the voices, if they're in proximity to you, you can, hear them just, like, blabbering autistically. And he was just being, but in the pre-lobby, he was just being chased by, like, this swarm of people who were just trying to, like, get into his stream. And then in the game, he ended up, like, getting killed by someone, and then, like, freaking out, like, screaming in the mic, telling everybody to hunt that guy down. And it was like, for every 10 seconds that guy's not dead, I'm banning 10 people. And it was so funny because it's not the first time I've heard him, like, threaten to just, like, randomly ban someone because he was in a bad mood. And yeah, I do stalk, like, Twitch streamers. I mean, I don't stalk them. I just watch them like anybody else would. But it's so funny. I've come to find that, like, if you really want to be a popular streamer, it's almost like it requires you to either have, like, some sort of gimmick, obviously be good at a game, but then it almost encourages people to be, like, super, super toxic. But at the end of the day, it's almost like the toxicity is actually really entertaining to watch. So I do not blame people for, like, watching him or whatever. The Blue Ridge Mountains are haunted, huh? Interesting. That's down in Tennessee? I stalk myself, that's all. Oh, you should get a ferret. That sounds fun. I grew up in Liverpool during the 1980s. For those of you that don't know, Liverpool's rough reputation was well earned back in those days. Some areas of the city were simply no-go areas for police, and if by chance they ever did come around, it was a kick to someone's door. And if by chance they ever did come around, it was to kick someone's door off the hinges before lashing them in the back of a van. We've had race riots, our own miniature crack cocaine epidemic, full-on gunfights between street gangs in broad daylight, even threats of Irish terrorism. It was one heck of a time to be alive, but generally, me and my little crew of friends kept our heads down and avoided trouble. That wasn't until one particular day when trouble found us instead. Every summer, on a large piece of parkland not far from where I was living, the local community threw a big summer fair, much like the big state fairs that go on in the US. There was fairground rides, candy floss, hot dog stands, little novelty stalls like Guess My Weight, the works. And in a city that was so hideously underfunded by regional and national governments, entertainment was pretty hard to come by. So these fair things were extremely popular. It was very popular. So these fairs were extremely popular. So these fair things were extremely popular with bored locals, including me and my mates. So we wandered down Smithton Road towards this massive open green space that's been pretty much taken over by the traveling fair. Like I said, these things were really popular, so I'm not exaggerating when I say there were literally thousands of people milling around, drinking and soaking up the rare British sunshine. At one point, we find ourselves at one of those stalls with fixed air rifles you can use to shoot small paper targets. Back then, and sort of now too, you had these rough council estate types who wore only athletic gear, namely brightly colored tracksuits, or as we called them, shell suits. We called them scalies, but any word like similar to thug would fit just as well. Anyway, as one of my mates steps up to do some shooting, so does one of these scaly types, intent on asserting his masculinity over the whole thing. Only, it turns out he's an awful shot and can barely hit the target, while my mate had already had a fair bit of practice as an army cadet, so he pretty much wipes the floor with the scaly lad. As you can imagine, the thuggish shell suit wearer doesn't take this very well at all. As we're getting ready to move on, the scaly lad gets in my mate's face and starts being aggressive with him. My mate just laughs and waves him away, still buzzing from having trashed him at shooting pellets. I didn't catch what was said, but I figured when we walked away the whole thing was over. How wrong I was. About an hour or so later, the four of us are lounging around on the grass not too far from the throngs of people. We've been out and about all afternoon, and the baking heat, so we're pretty zonked by that point. All that booze was managed to... All that booze... Is anybody really good with PCs? I have some friends that help me put together parts if I ever get new parts and all that kind of stuff, or make suggestions. But please, ask your question. You've been to Knoxville once or twice. Interesting. You grew up listening to Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson. Hell yeah. Mr. Let's Read, where did you grow up? I grew up in Pennsylvania, where I currently continue to reside. It's a perfect mixture of country and yuppie life. You get to see the best of both worlds around here. All that booze we managed to sneak out of our parents' respective stashes didn't help either. So let's just say our senses and perceptions are much slower than they normally would be. I remember how the mood changed dramatically in a matter of moments. One moment we're sitting there. The next we're noticing a large crowd of people making their way through the fairground, at least 100 strong. We observe with a kind of amused curiosity for a moment, wondering just why such a large crowd has sprung up, seemingly out of nowhere. Then we realized, as the crowd kind of shifts its movement, that they crowd... What? They crowd. Damn yuppies. Sons of bitchin' yuppies. Ever done stories on dreamwalkers or dreamwalking? I have not. Is that like astral projecting? Okay, so then we realize as the crowd kind of shifts its movement that the crowd of people, no, the gang, okay. Then we realized as the crowd kind of shifts its movement that the crowd of people, no, the gang of people, is headed towards us, with the scaly lad at the head of the pack. It was truly grim. One moment we're all chill, the next we're getting ready to run for our lives. Only we can't run. We've managed to box ourselves into a corner of the parkland that's sealed off by big iron fencing. We're trapped. The scaly lad walks right up to my mate, who he'd had the little confrontation with, and shoves him to the ground. My mate, who wasn't scared of a fight but wasn't one to initiate one, immediately tries to spring back up to his feet, but the scaly lad aims a kick squarely at his face as he tries doing so. My mate falls back, blood leaking from between his lips, completely knocked out from the sickening force of the kick. As horrible as all that sounds, it pales in comparison with the roar of approval it got from the scaly lad's accompanying gang. They were loving every second of it, and since the fight seemed to be over so quickly, they weren't about to just walk away from their horrific entertainment. The three of us who weren't unconscious were just frozen on the spot. I don't think I'd ever been so objectively terrified in my entire life. But then the scaly lad started kicking our down friend around his head, at one point even trying to stomp on his throat. He was actually trying to end his life. And if it wasn't for the unfathomable kindness of strangers, I think he might have actually done it too. Once it was obvious what was happening, the three of us just reacted. I remember trying to shield our knocked-out mate's body, taking a few punches from the gang as I did so, while another mate of ours just full-on rugby tackled the scaly lad to the ground and began laying into him. I don't think he landed a single punch. He was just bloody flailing his limbs about, screaming in rage as the fear was overcome by pure adrenaline. It wasn't long before we were all on the ground, shielding our heads from the flurries of punches and kicks that came from a group of people that were now little more than animals. But then, somehow, the kicks and punches began to stop. I looked up through one swollen eye to see a group of grown men and women barging their way into this insane cacophony of violence, throwing people to the side and screaming for them to stop. They were soon joined by two patrolling policemen who'd seen the activity and run over to break it up. It didn't really end there, though. Our mate, who'd taken the kick to the mouth, was still unconscious, and nothing the police did could wake him up. We honestly thought that he was going to die. One of us dropped to their knees and begged him to wake up, saying he'd do anything, just please wake up. I remember his voice cracking as he spoke, and I thought of our mate's mum. How'd she react when she found out her boy had been kicked to death at a bloody fair? We didn't get any news until the next morning, when we found out he'd woken up with very little memory of what happened. He was okay in the end, but for a few weeks he just wasn't himself. He seemed overly clumsy and became incredibly shy, in stark contrast to the confident fellow he was beforehand. The scaly lad ended up doing just less than a... Mr. Gooley with the two says, "Cool, you live in PA. I used to live in Bath." Bath? Where's Bath? Bath, Pennsylvania. Interesting, I never even heard of that. Usually I feel like I've heard of everything. Oh. Bath is almost on the borders of New York, kind of in the triangular area of Allentown and Philadelphia and all that. Interesting. I don't know how I'd never heard of that before. Huh. Tessa, what are you talking about, man? Mr. Hyper, welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Glad you could join the stream the other night in the Discord there. The Scally lad ended up doing just less than a year in prison, having his sentence reduced dramatically because he'd had a difficult upbringing. Nonsense, if you ask me. Now, a little footnote to end this with. In the early 90s, when we were all grown up with full-time jobs and kids in some instances, I met up with one of the guys who was there that day for a pint or two at a local pub, the Willowbank if anyone knows it. As it turned out, this... Did I say Scaly the whole time and it should have been Scally? I feel like I should have said Scally the whole time and I... As it turned out, the Scally who went to prison had developed an addiction while he was inside, and whether it was through sharing needles or something else, he ended up being... I don't know, I think, I would imagine it's Scally, like Scallywag, but... And whether it was through sharing needles or something else, he ended up coming positive for a certain disease and died alone in a hospice over in Manchester. I think the scariest thing of all is how, when I heard that news, I just took a swig of my pint and found myself smiling. Tanzania. Scallywag. Yeah, I may or may not have pronounced that multiple different ways there. A scallywag is from Liverpool. Okay, yeah, I may have... I think I said scaly in the beginning. Scallywag. You thought I was telling a story about lizard people? We might have some of those here soon. The Abandoned Flats. So this might actually be an Urbex story. I know someone was asking about one of those. More conspiracy theories coming up on Let's Read. Back when I was much younger, my friends and I were into urban exploring before it was even really a thing. We grew up in a pretty rough area, with a lot of old apartment buildings that had to be abandoned and eventually demolished due to asbestos. That stuff made them basically fireproof, but were fire and smoke. Wait, what? Lils with a $1.40 and a cat emoji, thank you. How's Pradeep? Well, he was in with us briefly, but as soon as I started talking on the stream, he just started wandering around the room and scratching on things. And which usually indicates to me that he wants to be let out. But, do I believe in skinwalkers? Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of strange things within the sort of Native American reservation culture. And I do find it very interesting, to say the least. I wouldn't be surprised within like the sort of paranormal world. The doggy. Pradeep like football. Pradeep doesn't like anything. Pradeep just likes to have his belly rubbed once in a while. Yeah, not the spoofies again. Yeah, he's sick of hearing these. I don't know if he thinks I'm talking to him. Billy. Billy Amber was a person that came in here quite a bit. I have not seen her in a while. She's probably just watching the 49ers, because I know she would talk about being a 49ers fan quite a bit. A thirsty e-girl. Aren't we all just thirsty e-girls at the end of the day? You just gotta separate the fart from the fartist. But try explaining that to a bunch of teenagers. Wait, oops. That stuff made them basically fireproof, but were fire and smoke. Wait, I'm confused about this sentence. That stuff made them basically fireproof, but... Oh, where? Okay. That stuff made them basically fireproof, but where fire and smoke will kill you quick, asbestos will kill you slow. But trying to explain that to a bunch of teenagers actively looking for somewhere to hide from grown-ups so they could do some distinctly grown-up things. Oops, that didn't sound right at all. She lost the thirst. Her thirst was quenched. Scared of Wendigos. I don't really even know what a Wendigo is. It's like, is it like a human hybrid thing? Like, I mean, I've read lots of stories, but it's like, how in the actual shit does a human turn themselves into a creature? But try explaining that to a bunch of teenagers actively looking for somewhere to hide from grown-ups so they can do some distinctly grown-up things. Where other people saw decrepit, dusty... Where other people saw a decrepit, dusty dump, we saw our own little corner of paradise. A home away from home, or maybe home is too strong of a word, but you get the idea. Anyway, there was one particular estate that was almost completely bereft of inhabitants, having been gradually relocated by the city council until there must have been no more than 2 or 3 families left over. It was like an actual ghost town. Even the local corner shop had its shutters permanently down with a for sale sign quickly following its indefinite closure. But like I said, that kind of place was our bread and butter. So when they moved out, we moved in. There was this one set of high-rise flats, that's apartments to you North Americans reading, that we used to visit on the regular. The heating and other utilities had been switched off for a while, and this was in the middle of winter, so we used to stash cans of cider in the old cupboards, and they'd basically act like walk-in fridges. It got to the point that we ended up occupying one of the flats, bringing over an old nylon string guitar and other amenities so the place felt a bit more homely. So this one night, just after Christmas, about 5 of us piled into the old place to get drunk and have a sing-song. I remember that we were halfway through Bowie's Man Who Sold the World when the off-key twang of a string breaking had us all groaning with disappointment. What's more, it was the G string. Take a moment to get all the broken G string... Oh, that's funny. Jailbait Joel, yeah. Guys, I'm 17, so please be careful with what you say. I would hate to send all of you to jail. Tessa, I literally have no idea what you're even talking about. Whatever offenses you feel deep within yourself are your own issues, and I don't even... Perhaps I have no idea. I have no idea. Take a moment to get all the broken G-string jokes out of your system. Okay? You done? Good. On with the story. Anyone who knows anything about playing guitar will tell you that break a top or bottom string and it's not the end of the world, but break your G-string and nothing quite sounds the same. So there we were, basically condemned to a silent disco for the night. But it didn't dampen our spirits entirely, so we committed to staying for a few hours to at least make the most of the evening. We're all just sitting around, chatting bollocks and bumming smokes off of each other when one of us loudly hushes the rest before holding a singular... Prejudice? What the fuck are you fucking... Alright, 1 second. I don't... Listen, I really don't have time for... I don't even know. false accusations of insanity right now. It was from Liverpool? Are you upset about the story I read from Liverpool? I don't really, I mean, everyone's usually really positive in here. I don't remember what I said 15 minutes ago. Listen, dude, I have no desire to entertain whatever you're trying to entertain, so we'll be moving on. We're all just sitting around chatting bollocks and bumming smokes off of each other when one of us loudly hushes the rest before holding a single finger in the air, as if to say, listen. There's a brief silence, and I do mean a silence. No one's heard a thing. Said the lad who's shushed. Do I have a Discord? I do. It's linked down below. All right, I'm going to take a second to address this because it's quite frustrating to deal with people who they hear language and they perceive language to be something like there's an old quote where it's you're offended by something. And when you're offended, you feel as if though you're entitled to certain rights. But you're not. You're fortunate enough that I even take time to address whatever it is that you feel offended by. You're entitled to nothing, and people are entitled to speak whatever they want to speak. And if I said a joke that may or may not have been offensive in your mind, I would say to take some moments to sort of look at your internal self to see whether or not words truly affect you to a degree in which they control you. They control your emotions when you can't control your own emotions. So you either leave and stop wasting your energy. I mean, you really only have two options. You get over yourself and your perceived sense of value based on your generated offense. I could come up with something that I'm offended by anybody at any moment, every day, but I deal with reality, and whether or not I took the piss out of something, which isn't like a common phrase that we hear too much, but I suppose that's something that's said often. Big deal. Big deal is really all I have to say. I do not care. I really do not care that someone is offended by a joke. And I'm a relatively easygoing guy. By no means prejudiced, by no means even superficially offensive. I just don't have time for childish responses to something that is relatively innocuous. I really, really don't. And I don't ever get mad during streams, but for you to just spam me like that, that's the only thing that annoys me, is whenever you get accused and told that you are something that you didn't even intend to be. So don't tell me who I am when I don't intend to be that. If I were to intend to be something, I would acknowledge it. But don't tell me who I am when I don't even intend to be those things. They're false accusations, and that to me is what is offensive whenever you accuse me of being something that I myself know I am not. So grow up is all I have to say. I'm sorry to be negative about this, but it's frustrating. People putting words in your mouth. Jokes that aren't funny. I don't care. There's a brief silence, and I do mean a silence. No one heard a thing. So the lad who'd shushed everyone just put it down to him hearing things. The mood softens again quickly, and we're back to drinking and taking the piss out of each other. Look at that. Friends taking the piss out of things. Imagine, do you go every day of your life offended when people take the piss out of stuff? Is that how you treat your other friends in real life? Is in such an insufferable pattern? Like, that's what a waste of time. What a waste of energy on your part. I'm sorry to even waste time with trolls. I mean, I watch streamers who ban people. I watch streamers who ban people, and I ask myself, oh man, maybe they overreacted. But honestly, like, I don't really have time. I don't care if I offended someone. There is really, I don't care. Because honestly, I don't care. I really don't care. I'm a relatively PC guy, whatever you want to say. It's so strange to me that like people think that words like constitute some sort of, I don't even know what you want to say, some sort of high crime in their mind. They look at words as crimes and that they must be answered for, they must be apologized for. It's like they simply only are what they are to those who interpret it. You know what I mean? Alyssa, thanks for the 2. So just ignore the trolls. You're right. I just, as like a relatively newer streamer, I haven't really dealt with that anymore. Like people accusing you of being something that you aren't. It's so childish. I guess it's childish of me to acknowledge a child, to entertain a child. Grow up, man. Just grow up. There's a brief silence, and I do mean silence. No one... There's a brief silence, and I do mean silence. No one heard a thing, so the lad who'd shushed everyone just put it down to him hearing things. The mood softens again quickly, and we're back to drinking and just giving each other a hard time. Only a little while later, the same lad does the same hushing thing. He's not alone this time, though. Another one of us swore down that he too had heard something. A scratching or oh shit, hold on a second. My roommate just got home and is cooking things and smashing. Asherella says 99% of the folks here love and appreciate you. We're fans and friends who know who you are and how you are. We're diverse and we love you, and that says everything. Yeah, I mean, people, I interact with my Discord all the time. And they know who I am, and I'm not who you say I. You know, if anybody says negative things, I mean, like, I don't know. I know we live in a different time, like, but to me, the weird thing about language is that in the sort of fluctuation between the perceived concepts of political correctness and what is perceived to be offensive or not offensive has changed so rapidly within the past 5 years that which would otherwise be considered taking the piss out of something and joking about it or whatever you want to say, suddenly, in the modern sense, is considered borderline criminal. You know what I mean? And it's childish. It really is childish to let words affect you, because then the words control you and no longer do you control yourself. You know what I mean? Like, and it's been getting that way as time goes on, where the media constantly the media, Twitter, all these freaking social media outlets, the cancel culture, like, it's like you're stepping on eggshells when you even enter into the public realm of conversation. You're stepping on eggshells if you even share like a mildly, controversial opinion. And I didn't even share a controversial opinion, and I think everyone has the right to their opinion, and I didn't even share an opinion. I simply said, I don't even actually know what I even said to constitute being called prejudice or whatever it be. It's just it's not even necessarily that individual, I don't even remember their name, who that made me so upset. I guess it's a culmination to know that every day every day I look at the news and I see outrage. I see a false reality is generated. This continued frustration that what's his name, George Carlin always said that PC culture is just fascism disguised as manners. And that's literally what it is, that if you don't have the appropriate manners that someone else perceives that you should have, they try to silence you and disguise it as manners, but really it's just fascism in the form of trying to control your speech or whatever. And I know this was such a minute example of that, but to see it permeate down to the younger, demographic is so frustrating to me, because it demonstrates to me again that the media has such a control over people's perceived reality that if they tell you how to think or tell you how high you should jump, you ask how high. You know what I mean? It's literally anything they tell you to think or how to think or what you should feel like, and all these insanities can get you canceled in a moment. You know what I mean? Like someone can call an advertiser and say that, oh, haven't you noticed that this person is not abiding by the unsaid rules of spoken language? And the advertiser is literally just as skittish as a fish in a pond, or a group of birds, and they'll fly away from whoever and get them canceled or get them banned off a platform. And I'm just like, what happened to people being adults and discussing things and communicating with each other? Like, it literally, to me, seems it's the most truest thing ever, is that fascism disguised as manners. Because if you can get someone silenced or tell someone how to speak, you essentially are cutting off any sort of like perceived concept of communication that was so normal for so long. And in such a short period of time, that culture has been shifted. And I'm sorry to ramble, guys. I feel that person's comments and their continual beratement, their continual perception of some sort of moral high ground that they exist on because of their ability to avoid speaking a certain way, or their ability to feel offended by something, constitutes them as some sort of moral arbiter for how you speak. You're offended by my British accent. Yeah, you should be. You should be offended by that, most of all, because I did it poorly. Can we listen to a story? You're right. You're absolutely right. Let me splash some Joel juice on my face. I think that was just pent-up frustration just over time. Taking out my anger on someone. Let's offend. Joel, I'm offended by those who get offended. That's really all it is. Because it just means that you don't have control over your own emotions. Mr. Gooley with the twos, if you start a rant podcast, I will support. Yeah, that would be fun, I think. Thank you, Mr. Gooley, for the two. Appreciate it. Only a little while later, the same lad does the same hushing thing. He's not alone this time, though. Another one of us swore down that he too had heard something, a scratching or shuffling noise coming from the dark corridor outside the flat. Have one lad with an attack of paranoia, and you can take the energy out of him. Have two lads hear the same bloody thing, and you start to take things a bit more serious. One of us pokes their head out of the flat, shining the light of his phone's screen into the darkness, before turning back to tell us there was nothing there. These flats were half falling down. It was perfectly reasonable to expect them to creak and croak a fair bit. A few of us managed to relax again, but the two guys who'd heard the noises remained anxious, shooting each other nervous looks in between scanning the flat's open doorway for movement. Cut to a few hours later, and it's coming up to midnight. Energy levels are dipping severely, and so are the noise levels. This meant the atmospherics were perfectly attuned for us to perfectly hear the creaking of floorboard just above our heads. This wasn't just the run-down condition of the building either. It was painfully obvious that the show and deliberate creak came from a football on the floor above us. Don't ask me how we knew that. Sometimes your gut just tells you everything you need to know about a certain sound or shape in the darkness. That's how the human race has survived for so long and so successfully, in my opinion. There really is such a thing as a sixth sense. As soon as we hear that creak, we all freeze. I mean, proper statues still, barely even breathing, with all eyes glued to the ceiling. We start asking each other what that was, but we all knew someone or something was up there, and had been up there the entire time. I should add at this point we'd managed to compile a little collection of wood sticks, iron bars, and other such debris that we told ourselves was our weapon stash. It was all just a bit of a joke, to be honest. They were of purely totemic value, but in the moments that followed that horrible bloody creak, I think that was whoops. Dolly Reynolds Dolce with the 5 says, we know who you are, Joel, and we love you. They're just seeking attention. We're the Buttersock Cult family. We're behind you. Keyboard warriors, hell yeah. Yeah. I don't like negativity, and it frustrates me, but it's almost as if though people enjoy negativity so much that they search after it. You know what I mean? Cashy, what's good? With the 21 Canadian maple syrup does his bruh. Can I get some Joel juice on my face? Also, why do I miss everything? Oh boy. I don't know. I have not. I feel like we haven't seen you in quite some time. I hope you're doing well. I hope things are going well up in Canada. Oh Canada. You're offended that I'm offended that she's offended. I think that's fair. Honestly, there was always the saying of like the loud minority, like people who just get up on their soapbox, but then, there used to be shows like South Park, you know what I mean? There used to be shows like Family Guy, and those shows would sort of destroy, anybody who the anti, the people who claim the witch hunters, you know what I mean? They call you a witch, and they claim you're a witch, and they clutch their pearls, by saying that you practice witchcraft, and that was a big deal in the 90s, you know what I mean? And then shows such as South Park or Family Guy or whatever were controversial in their presentation and that kind of thing. But the fact that you can make a gaffe out of something, that you could make a joke, it does take the piss out of something, and it lightens the mood on serious topics. And those who got offended no one cared. No one cared. They weren't held up or given a soapbox to scream upon, because everyone realized how much of a child they were being, and never gave them the time of day. But all of a sudden it seems like now it's as if though they're being held up as some sort of like beacon of truth, when in reality it's just reeing and screeing. Valerie Hernandez with the fire. Sorry to send that super chat during that whole mess. I'm honestly super high. Did not make the connection to what was going on. No worries, Valerie. Thank you for the 5. No, I'm at this point. It was as if though that those comments just sent me into a tirade of focusing on culture as a whole and perceiving, how far things have fallen, in the concept of, what we perceive to even be offensive. Yeah, I mean, humor. I mean, those shows like Family Guy, those shows like I don't know. My hope is that offended culture will go away in 2020. I'm so done with it. That was so 2019. It was entertained for a brief period of time. It was sort of a strange phenomenon, but to me, I don't really think it's profitable for anybody anymore. I don't really think cancel culture is really. I don't really think it's. I don't really think it's useful to anyone, other than like, some sort of elites who are trying to shut down conversation of something like that, and just using useful idiots to do their bidding on the lowest tier of society. Went on to play the victim. Yeah. I'm sorry. I literally can get on a rant about that shit forever because it's just. Anyway, someone think of something else funny to talk about. Maybe I'll just read some stories. Deb, you're 50. You have to work to a family. I know. I like being jabbed in. I like jokes about. I like being made fun of. I used to go, at the place that I worked in bars. I worked at a hospital. Like the shit that you're called at a bar in a hospital by drunken people or even your coworkers or whatever. I mean, what happened to people's skin? And it wasn't even directed at them. It was as if though they were like some harbinger of speech for other people. Why don't you let the other people speak for themselves? Is the most frustrating part. There's no context. I'm very sorry. Joel's reeing and screeing here. I should add at this point we managed to compile a little collection of wooden sticks, iron bars, and other such debris that we told ourselves was our weapons stash. It was all just a bit of a joke, to be honest. They were of purely totemic value, but in the moments that followed that horrible bloody creak, I thanked that was what I thanked that was whole. That which was holy, probably. But in the moments that followed that horrible bloody creak, I thanked that which was holy that we'd had the foresight to collect them. Each of us grabbed something to defend ourselves with before falling silent again, listening for any other creaking sounds above us. We weren't left waiting long. Another creak, then another, each one getting closer and closer to where the front entrance to the upstairs flat would be. We couldn't help but sit there, terrified, listening as whatever was up there got closer and closer to us. When the footsteps stopped, one of us plucked up the courage to creep towards the open front door of the flat and stick their head out. The next thing I know, we're just pouring down the stairs of the apartment block, with the lad who'd scouted the stairs out shouting. Shit, I think they messed up the words there, shouting out. Red Andra with the 10. Thank you, my friend. Not sure if you had a comment to go along with the 10, but just at me and I shall read it. Thomas says, hey, just want to say I really appreciate your content. It helps me get to sleep at night because I can never focus my thoughts, and your readings help it. Keep going. Love you. Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, listening to stuff really helps me to just kind of drift away, which would be kind of which can kind of drifting away is kind of hard to do sometimes because your thoughts, you want to be focused on something, and sorry, man, that really put me in a sour spot there. Anyways, okay. The next thing I know, we're just pouring down the stairs of the apartment block, with the lad who'd scouted the stairs shouting out how there's someone up there. We were scared, maybe a little over-paranoid, but over the next few days, we started to question if we'd ever seen what we thought we had. I remember seeing the shape of something on the stairs above us, but I wasn't 100% sure it was a man, and neither was anyone else, if we were honest with ourselves. In the end, I had convinced myself we'd imagined the whole thing and decided to run a little experiment. I left a loaf of bread in the lobby of the apartment block, intending to prove that there was no one living there when the loaf was still there, growing mold a few days later. But when I got back, it was gone. Years later, we watched the council demolish those flats, as wrecking balls smashed into the brickwork and plastic window frames. We mourned our old hideaway, yes, but mostly, we wondered if whoever was in there would be buried in the rubble. Spent the day sleeping to my voice. Thank you. You're welcome. I am glad that I can at least be that which helps lead you to dreamland. I had a really weird dream earlier um, where I woke up, and it's like in dreams, it's like it all feels so real, you know what I mean? Like even though it does kind of feel like sort of a clouded memory of sorts, it it just feels very real. And yeah, I just had this dream that I woke up in the dream and was in sort of a higher bed, like a bed that was like up much higher than normal, and then for some reason was also like in a bathroom. Um, and then there was just various things that were happening throughout the house that just really confused me. I forget exactly what it was, and then I was like asking my roommate like, "What year is it? What year is it?" And he's like, It's 2010, man. Like, what are you talking about?" And and then I just like started freaking out. And then as I was like freaking out, I ran by my bathroom, and then there was like sort of like an apparition of like a little girl, and and then that freaked me out even more, like as if there was like some ghost or something. And yeah, then that woke me up, and it's so weird when you just have like a really freaky dream and you wake up from, you're like, holy shit, thank God that's not reality. Even though that didn't sound very scary overall, it was just like when you finally escape that like fast heart beating sensation, it just is very relieving. MEB with a 5 says, I have to go to work and it's freezing cold outside. My bed is so warm. I do hate that feeling. I remember working at the hospital, working nights, and you just like have such a good sleep going and then have to get up and go at nighttime. Caitlin, notice me, senpai. Love you, senpai. I have noticed you. What's the opposite of senpai? What's like the under the senpai? It's a guaranteed wet dream. It's weird though, because like if even like one person is offended by you or what, sorry to go back to this, but I'm just like thinking about like in the philosophy at all, like imagine being like imagine being someone who just is so much in the public eye all the time and hated by such a large percentage of people solely based on what is sort of, they don't even know who you are, but there's certain apparatus such as like the media and like all those kind of things that generates a perceived reality to the public of who you are. For example, I mean, we had the PewDiePie situation. Like it was like he goes through, I don't know exactly how to like recap it all, but I mean, it didn't take much for the slime balls in the media to just completely defame his character in every possible way. Whenever, people know who PewDiePie is from years and years of watching him or developing some sort of perception of his personality and who he is and all that kind of stuff. And yet they were trying to make him out to be some sort of like borderline Nazi. He's a Nazi. Oh my God, he's a Nazi. 420 people. Hell yeah, blaze it, brother. So sometimes I'm almost thankful that, I'm thankful that the growth that this channel has, but I'm also thankful for the intimacy that the channel also has, to not be some like 20 million subscriber type character who every day you have to be faced on Twitter with the outrage mob who tells you who you are and whenever you know who you are. You know someone who cuts off their toes for 30K. Oh my God. Do they give it to like diabetic people? Like what the hell? Thou shalt not bear false witness. Beware of those who do so against others. Hey, that's fair. Yeah. Don't lie. But I guess, honestly, the media has come so far downhill. And I don't know if it's just because there's sort of a profit to be made from constantly defaming people. But I don't understand why when you get defamed, or borderline libel and all that kind of stuff. Like, why don't people sue like more often? Like, if a news article says something wrong about you, why don't people just like put them out of business? Like, that should be the repercussion for publishing something false about someone, and then they would keep them to a keep news outlets to a higher standard solely based on a checks and balance system that is founded in law, and you do start to see that more often, because I remember hearing about, like, I forget who it was, but it was like Hulk Hogan got accused of something, and then he sued the media outlet that said that he was that for a ridiculous amount of money, and then they went out of business, and it's like, well, good. Because all they're doing is defaming you either for some sort of underlying, political doctrine that they adhere by, or so that they themselves can make money based on those lies, Media's the devil, water boy. Project Mockingbird. Yeah, it is weird that they all like have the same opinions too about shit. It's like, do they fact check with one another, or do they just all just parrot one another's narrative? It's very stupid. Do most people that much money to go against the major news outlets? Yeah, that's a good point. To like legal fees. I remember whenever Hulk Hogan is a douchebag. I mean, I don't know anything about the guy, but I mean, like, if it was founded in court, in a court system, rather than a court of public opinion, that what they said was, libel. I just think that people who cover news things shouldn't sit there and make opinion pieces and all this kind of stuff just to defame people or essentially feed the outrage mob. You know what I mean? They should be held to a better standard. You know what I mean? Cover things in a neutral perspective. Don't come into being a journalist with some sort of like far-leaning bias. You know what I mean? Because all you're gonna do is make yourself look like a vibe check. What does vibe check mean? Does that mean just like chill? All right, we got 3 more stories. Yeah, why don't we have robot toes? Just become a bionic man. Vibe check complete. No, if you were vibing or nah. I've been seeing a lot of the meme of vibing. Is that just like chilling? We vibing, we chilling? It means they eject me into space. Vibe check. And they just launch me up into space. In the UK, the police were feeding the BBC information, so they filmed the raid on his apartment and went to court for the impact on his career. Yeah, such a strange system we've got in place. Alita the Battle Angel has the best robot toes. I haven't seen that. I heard Alita. I mean, it looked interesting. She even had anime eyes. Your friend was giving out vibe passes. You didn't get one. I need one. Does that just mean you can just have a bad vibe for a bit? Do I get a vibe pass? Can I get one of those? Christopher Lass with the 5. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Britt. Burger King Blood Bettis. Yeah, I need all the good vibes. Vibe me up, yo. So there's this huge public park in the south end of the city I live in. And every summer when we're kids, me and my friends would spend our days lounging around the swing sets or chilling by the duck pond. As we got into our teens and our group of friends snowballed into a much larger one which included girls, we kept the same tradition, all meeting up on the park to share pilfered booze and cigarettes when we got a little too big for the swing sets. So this whole thing takes place after a long day in the sun, as we're all going our separate ways. I was part of one larger group that was headed roughly south, towards the main gates of the park that would put us back on the road. I'm talking maybe about 5 or 6 of us, all half drunk and acting dumb, all walking in one direction, when we hear one of those smaller motocross engines in the distance behind us. I've never even remotely been a gearhead, so I'm not about to tell you exactly how many cc's this thing had or the make and model. Just know we heard this thing in the distance and, at first, didn't really think anything of it. We're still walking pretty slow and the engine is getting louder and louder, so we're kind of following the sound for a minute or two before this motocross bike thing comes into view. The driver, face obscured by his helmet, stops dead when he sees us, his head jerking so the black visor is pointed directly at us. Now, ragging a motocross bike... Ragging? Is ragging a thing? Sending one individual vibe. Good luck with the phone charge. Dude, I can't wait for phones just to freaking be instantaneous charge and also have like week-long batteries. I guess you would just need like a huge battery pack. Which would you rather have like a huge phone and as long as you could have really good battery? Or would you rather have like a skinny phone that just like charged almost instantaneously? Because I'm so sick of, I mean, my phone's old and I should upgrade, I guess, but it's like, I know for a fact, the conspiratorial side of me is coming out, but I know for a fact that there was a update on my iPhone and I went from being able to like have my phone be charged for like 2 full days to literally going down to like 30% in less than a few hours, and I just like constantly need to have it on the charger thing, otherwise it's about dead in the water, you know, if I'm not paying attention. Now, ragging a motocross bike around a public park like this is super illegal here in the UK, or if it's not legal, it's certainly not something the police would be comfortable with you doing. So I've no doubt that, for a moment, the driver sort of panicked when he saw us. But I mean, we were just these skanky-looking teens, so short of witnessing a murder, we're not the kind of people to get right on the phone to the police. I remember one of us even waved to the dude and shouted, "Nice bike." But apparently the friendly gesture didn't do us any favors. The biker revs his engine and begins speeding over to us, covering the 200 or so meters in a matter of seconds. It was kind of intimidating, but more impressive than anything. I figured he'd come over to show off his hardware. Bumper Biffteen, Burger Bing Butt Bettis, Babass Bing Bow Bunt, Bin Bor Burger, Bin Burger via Bum Buddies, Butt Bungus, Butt Bass Bid Burns. Man, that's so funny. Dude, Chills is actually a national gem. If Pokemon Go is not signed out, it will drain the battery faster. Yeah, Pokemon Go. I know a lot of people liked it, but I just couldn't get into it. I wish they had like, I don't know, I just wish that it was essentially Pokemon turn-based system, but like, you know, on your phone. But I guess that would have killed the normal Pokemon game probably, or not motivated people to play Pokemon. I figured he'd come over to show off his hardware and make some friends or something. But I was wrong. He stops the bike just in front of us, his face still obscured by the helmet, while the small engine steadily ticks over. There's a moment of confusion while my friend raises his voice and repeats, "Nice bike." The guy There's a moment of confusion while my friend raises his voice and repeats "nice bike" at the guy, louder and more pronounced so he can hear us over the engine and through his helmet. The biker doesn't reply. He barely even moves, just keeps staring at my buddy, who paid him the compliment. It was about then we realized the biker's intentions were far from good. He dry revs his engine a few times, like the way a bull might rake its hoof in the dirt before a charge. Some of us turned to run, but it was no good. As you can imagine, trying to outrun a motocross bike is about as futile as it sounds. But it was his target of choice that horrified me the most initially. He had his pick of about 4 or 5 dudes, but he aimed for the one girl that happened to be with us. He speeds forward and slams the bike into the back of her. She just tumbles into the dirt hard, stunned by the impact. The biker then forces his wheels over her bare legs and revs the engine. The girl screamed in pain, but before we had a chance to react and try to help her, the guy turns his bike towards us and begins to try to take another one of us down. It was absolutely terrifying, trying to dodge getting run over while also trying to get the girl up and moving again so we could escape. I thought the biker might have broken a bone in the girl's leg, but somehow he hadn't, and she could still walk despite having the most disgusting, painful-looking friction burns on the back of her leg. I suppose she was just running on pure adrenaline like the rest of us. An opening for a clean escape was found when the biker gunned it at one of us, only to almost hit a tree when the guy dodged his ramming attempt. His ramming attempt. Hey, Emmy B with the 2 says, I'm off work. Bye, everybody. Oh, see ya. Emmy, enjoy your work night or day. Lils with the 5 says, I'm working and just finished with customers. You're awesome, Joel. That's why everyone is here. Love your rants. Thank you. I try to keep a good rant to read ratio. Thomas McGee says, I'm upset my teacher took off points my midterm for making a quote too long, but isn't there no limit to a quote? I suppose so, unless there was like a word, like you had to hit a certain amount of words or something, and that quote got you to that threshold or something of that nature. But I mean, if it wasn't like some like sort of flagrant usage to, I don't know, get out of writing more, in that scenario I probably would have Gabriella, thank you. In that scenario I probably would have done a little bit of the quote and then surmised it maybe in similar words, but almost disguised the quote as a summation of something or whatever. Like, I remember the cool thing is when I went to college, I used to suck at like English. Like, I mean, I wasn't a fan of reading really, wasn't a fan of writing too much, and most of the activities I did in English were relatively difficult. But whenever I took my one like freshman literature class, it was almost like every week, every class we had more work to do. And I remember him saying that if you do the average amount of work, you're going to get a C. If you do more, than the average amount of work, you're going to get a B. And if you go above and beyond, you're going to get an A. So I thought that was really weird. It was intimidating, but I had really felt as if though I had come into my own as far as my ability to like write and research and utilizing, references and quotes and stuff like that. And it was interesting because, being told that you had to do extra work essentially to get an A, it really forced me to use a certain level of creativity to accomplish that. And what I really enjoyed about college was just the fact that you would have one class one day, and then depending on how long it was, you wouldn't have it the next day. And then it was such a strange concept to me to have like an entire extra day to complete whatever work I had to do. It just like made me feel like I could be a college god. Sean asked, do you like Mr. Creeps? I do like Mr. Creeps. He's got awesome creepypastas, and I was actually featured in one of his about mermaids. you guys should check out sometime. Brea Green, hi, just came on your live stream. It's my first time coming here. I love your voice. Keep it up, because I love you, and you always keep me calm when I hear your voice. Thank you for everything. You're welcome. I'm glad I can keep calm. Shrugs had 9th grade reading level when I was 10, so that's pretty dope. Yeah, some girls, like my buddy's daughter, she's about that age, and ever since she was about 7, she's just been destroying books, you know what I mean? Not actually catching them on fire or ripping them up or anything, but she just give her a book, she'll read it in like a day or two. Like she'll get Harry Potter and just finish it in no time. And I really admire kids who can develop those kinds of skills early on, because obviously the majority of the education system is being able to maintain your attention to participate in some topic for a long period of time, and being able to focus on reading and have those reading comprehension skills early on just makes you that much better of a student. And I think that's pretty dope. Be on the No Sleep podcast. That would be neat. I've never actually even listened to the No Sleep podcast before, but I hear about it all the time. And I think that would mean, do I ever do a face reveal? I am on, if you go to my Discord, you can go to the selfies tab on Discord and click on the pinned messages, and you'll be able to see my face along with lots of other beautiful, beautiful people on there. An opening for a clean escape was found when the biker gunned it at one of us, only to almost hit a tree when the guy dodged his ramming attempt. The guy turns to stop sharply and fall off his... The guy turns to stop sharply and... Fuck. This channel really tingles my jingle. The guy turns to stop sharply and falls off his own bike, giving us a few seconds to get the girl up and run to the nearest exit, a large stone wall we'd have to scale to get free. Just as we're about to reach the wall, I hear the engine rev loudly again before one of our buddies screams out loud. I turn to see him on the grass, having been knocked... Fuck. I'm making so many mistakes. I turn to see him on the grass, having been knocked down by the bike, and he's holding his wrist as if he's been hurt from the impact or fall. The biker begins to circle us again, readying to charge at us once again. The rest is kind of a blur. I remember helping drag the guy up the wall by his good arm, watching the bike speed towards us again as the rest of us piled over the wall and into the safety of the street on the other side. But we still weren't safe. It'd take like 60 seconds for the biker to find the nearest exit and gun it onto the road we were on, so we had to keep running for a little while until we were satisfied we were at a proper safe distance. So we had to keep running for a little while until we were satisfied we were at a properly safe distance. The girl, who I don't want to name, cried all the way home, mainly from the painful friction burns the back of her legs had received, but also from the shock of just being attacked like that. It makes me angry just typing this, remembering how scared we were at the time, and how just a little courage would have seen us through the whole thing. How maybe if we stood up to that guy, how we'd have just... Have you ever watched Naruto? You know, I haven't. I've always seen it kind of on Nickelodeon or something, but I think it was a little... maybe after my time or something like that. Consciousness of self is the greatest hindrance to mankind, Bruce Lee. Yeah, it is pretty hindering. Sometimes you just gotta do. What's my thoughts on the girl who tells jokes in my videos, or the Bigfoot with the internet access? Yeah, I like seeing them. It's nice to see consistent people, and I wonder to myself, I forget her name, but she always has like some sort of punny joke ready in the comments section, and I'm like, man, she must have these prepped and ready to go beforehand or something. But I do appreciate him. I think I pinned one of her jokes one time. Oh, maybe if we stood up to the guy, he'd have just left us alone, instead of running like cowards, which is exactly what we did. But part of me is grateful that we didn't. I know that sounds crazy, but just hear me out. Since we were basically the goth kids, which was just dumb now that I look at it, anyone who didn't wear a tracksuit was considered a goth. We got a lot of bull from local tough guys, and this caused a great deal of fear and resentment to build up collectively inside of us. Part of me thinks that if we really did pour out all our hate and discontent onto that guy once he'd fallen off his bike, I might only now be getting out of prison to tell you about it. I get that this makes me sound like a phony tough guy. No one likes people who say could've, would've, should've, but sometimes I think of how easy it would have been just to pile onto the guy and end him properly. His helmet protected his head, sure, but I still remember to this day how exposed the guy's neck was, and without being able to see his face, without the eyes to provide that little hint of humanity, it would have been so easy to crush his windpipe right there on the grass. Yikes, this guy's fantasizing at this point. It would have been so easy to crush his windpipe right there on the grass. I think that's what scares me the most. How grown-up me thinks about that time in my life, and how I still can't quite tell myself that it would have... I think that's what scares... Fuck, sorry, 1 second, let me gargle. Gargle. You bet Joel watches My Little Pony. Dwayne, you remember we watched My Little Pony just yesterday together. Don't tell anybody about that. I'm from Pennsylvania or Transylvania, one of them. I think that's what scares me the most. How grown-up me thinks about that time in my life, and how I still can't quite tell myself that it wouldn't have felt good to exact my revenge upon him. Two more stories left in this piece. Listening as I do my nightly routine, cleaning up and getting my father's meds all set up for the night, for the morning. I think that's a good thing, really good thing, because I was talking earlier about how my grandparents are kind of on their last leg here. One of them is actually in hospice, and having family there to support him, both of them, as they kind of go through their end of life process. I really admire kids that kind of go out of their way to take care of their parents, because it's like they took care of you for a large majority of your life, and I think it's a really admirable thing to return that favor. You can tell I'm from PA. I don't even know if I even have a PA accent, or if Pennsylvania. I mean, there are definitely people around here who have Pennsylvania accents. It fluctuates. Like, obviously you go to Philly, Pittsburgh, they sound different. But central Pennsylvanians, they definitely have a certain accent, and then people from Erie, and it's funny. It's like everywhere you go, you got some fluctuation or certain things that people say. How long does it take to edit the audio? It's not terribly long. I would say if it's like an hour of audio, I can pretty much burn through it in 25 minutes or so. Just kind of clicking and clacking, connecting all the mistakes to the proper parts. The pack is back. You're welcome. I saw people were mad at Joe Buck, who was announcing the Packers game. I don't really know why. And people were saying that Aaron Rodgers is just some douche or whatever. Even though Rodgers does kind of come off as a bit of a Dingleberry sometimes. Because he was with Olivia Munn. Remember Olivia Munn from the video game X? What was it? What was that network? They were on G4 TV. You guys remember G4? That was sick. Back in the day, like a whole channel devoted to video games was so much fun. But then they literally syndicated like cops and this show called Cheaters, which as like a gamer you think cheaters, oh, like cheat codes and cool walkthroughs and stuff like that, which they actually had that. But then it was literally just the show, like a show about like people who cheated on each other. And I'm like, this is on a guy, and it was like on all the time, just as filler. I'm like, oh my god, this is a fucking show on a video game network. It was as if though, like, to get any like newer content about video games, you always had to wait like an entire week or like once a day. Aaron Rodgers is a whiny boy. Yeah. We're all just whiny e-boys. I'm an e-boy. It takes 3 clicks. 3 clicks and I'm done. Video's done. Haven't thought about G4 in a while. Yeah, I presume they just went out of business. I mean, it's hard to compete with. There's so many people on YouTube that make like really, really solid video game content. And it's funny because it's like you can be entertained by that and it doesn't require like some crazy production value. I mean, and you can pretty much emulate their production value anyways. But this one guy I'll watch once in a while, his name's Nakey Jakey. He talks about just a lot of nostalgic gaming experiences and stuff. And I mean, all of his jokes are really, really funny. And so I feel like sometimes people are more tantalized by like the things they hear out of people's voices more so than like the visual content. So if you go on like Joe Rogan's podcast, clearly it's not like some crazy high production value or, you're just listening to 2 people talk. And I feel like that sort of like tickles people's fancies a lot more than, a bunch of like Avenger explosions. Jerry Springer, Jerry. Yeah, it's weird to hear me not in the creepy tones. On Friday the 12th of February, 1993, a woman by the name of Denise Bolger took her son James to the New Strand Shopping Center in Bootle. Alright, we're going to start getting... Anybody from the UK is going to have to fill me in on how to pronounce stuff. So this is Bootle. Is that Bootle? Or Bootle? Nikolaus Boothman with the 2. Thank you, Nikolaus. Why don't I do a live video showing my face? Honestly, hey PewDiePie, what's up? GG. Honestly, I think I would be too insecure. Like, you can see my face on Discord and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not like some disgusting troll or anything like that, but just to always be like so... Like, I always see streamers and, like, eventually you get used to what they look like, even if they're not attractive or whatever, and it's like, who cares? But there's something very insecure about having to show your face on camera all the time. I guess I would get used to it. I just... Also, am I saying Bolger right? Is it Bolja? But... You can just imagine. I don't know. People would be so focused on my face. And then earlier when I was ranting about that person who was offended and stuff, I feel like I would not be a very becoming look of me because I'm just like rolling my eyes and stuff. Or just scowling like a monster. How does one view your photo on Discord? So you go to Discord through one of the invites, either a mod links or a link down below in the description. If you already have Discord, you'll enter it. You might have to download Discord first, and then you go to the Selfies channel and click the pinned messages, and you will see me in all my e-boy glory in many different forms. KFC Man, what is good with 3 says, can you make a Kahoot? And we all play next time. What is Kahoot? Never heard of it. I'm a scary man. I am. Let's Read Main HO3. Daddy, it's me. Hello, Let's Read Main. Face for squeal. Scowly Joel. Yeah, I'd be scowling. What's an e-boy? Just Just a guy who's online making tapes. You know, one of them. Your mom only gives you 2 hours of spooky stories and it's back to the basement. No tuck-in train tonight. Sorry. We'll all give you electronic tuck-ins. Is that pic of Danny Darko? No, that's just like a Wendigo animation that Robin had made, my visual artist and editor. Very talented man. You can find him down below. Alright, guys, so let's see. How do you say Bulger? You guys will have to phonetically spell it out for me.
PronounceNames.com.
Try doing... Oh.
James Bulger.
James Bulger? Is it a gur? Back to MCP, the chat's too adult and weird. Yeah, sorry, bro. Nuglets. Spicy nuglets. So, yeah, I could just do a live petting of Pradeep and get him to purr. Bulge her. Bulge her. Bulger. Bulge her. Bulge her? That sounds so strange. How do you even say that? Bulge her? I'm 290 million years old. This is true. It's, yeah, B-U-L-G-E-R. It's James Bulger. Maybe we'll find someone in the documentary who had talked about him. James Bulger documentary. Alright, Unforgiven. The boy who killed a child. Oh, Jesus Christ. We're off to a good start.
The faces of 10-year-old murderers. Tonight, the first new pictures of Thompson and Venables. New revelations about their years in custody and threats to hunt them down if they're released.
That's scary. Real Stories. Interesting. This channel called Real Stories seems to be doing quite well. Some pretty... Alright, we'll hear what it's called here. I'm just watching this documentary real quick, just briefly so I can hear what it says and we'll get back to the story. With a hard G. Tanzania.
It's 8 years since 2 10-year-old boys murdered James Bulger.
Bulger. I figured. I don't think there's an H involved in the bulge hers. That doesn't make any sense. Bulger. It's like a J. On Friday the 12th of February 1993, a woman by the name of Denise Bulger took her son James to the New Strand shopping centre in Bootle, a suburb of Liverpool in the UK. James was 2 years old at the time, just over a month away from his 3rd birthday. So he was not quite old enough to be attending nursery school, and therefore Denise would take James with her wherever she went. At around 3:40 p.m., whilst inside a small independent butcher's shop on the lower floor of the center, Denise, who had been temporarily distracted, realized that her son had disappeared. She looked around the immediate area, but it was no good. James was nowhere to be found. Denise then approached the shopping center's security guards and waited as the staff began to wander the shopping center in the hope of finding James. However, on the day in question, 2 local 10-year-old boys were playing truant from school and had decided to visit the New Strand shopping center. Won't let you donate. That's okay. Sometimes it's weird depending on like the usage of the credit card, whether it goes through, but the stories about cats, I don't think so. Bulger, Bulger. Sounds like something Forrest Gump would chant as a child. Does Forrest Gump chant stuff as a child? I feel like I vaguely remember him doing that whenever his mom was having an experience with the principal. Yeah, this is kind of a quite a sad story from what it sounds like, so If you need to take a break, come back. Also, if you guys ever kind of feel like a story is too boring, or Forever Unified says, can you be quieter so I can read? Yeah, I'm just going to not say anything so you can read, and I'll just whisper. I'll just whisper while we wait for you to get done. Stories about Oktoberfest, that does sound fun. But yeah, if you guys ever have a story you're not into, or you would rather skip, there are timestamps in the description that you can click, and I put those in there just for fun. If you download the Kahoot app, you can create your own game of questions you make up. I see. He chants red rum, red rum. Does he really? Red rum. Forest red run, forest red run. Do I know your maker? I do know your maker. He was actually on one of our last streams. However, on the day in question, 2 local 10-year-old boys were playing truant from school and had decided to visit the New Strand shopping center to partake in a little mischief. Robert Thompson and John Venables often ducked out of school together, and the New Strand was a favored hangout of theirs, where they would casually shoplift and generally cause trouble for the security staff. Throughout the day, Thompson and Venables stole various items from businesses located in the New Strand, including sweets, a troll doll, some batteries, and a can of blue paint. But it seems the pair grew bored with shoplifting and had decided to up the ante. It was about then they came across James Bulger, who had wandered away from his mother Denise, who was occupied in the butcher's shop. The innocent 2-year-old was exactly the kind of new toy the pair had been looking for, and they began to lead the boy by the hand away from the shopping center and his worried mother. The pair walked the young James... David Curtis, hello, hello. The pair walked the young James to the nearby Leeds-Liverpool Canal. It is here that one of the worst crimes in the history of the city began. It is not known if it was Venables or Thompson who decided to act first, but we know that James suffered his first injuries at the canal location when one of the older boys picked up the toddler and dropped him on his head, causing grievous injuries to his face and cranium. The trio then began to walk almost 5 kilometers across the city of Liverpool, where perhaps some of the most haunting events of the crime took place. Nearly 40 witnesses later reported that they'd seen the 2 10-year-olds with their 2-year-old prisoner, who was apparently crying his eyes out and did absolutely nothing. Only 2 people challenged the 2 boys on why they were leading the injured toddler around, but were seemingly convinced by Venables and Thompson's claims that the boy was their little brother, or that they were taking the lost and injured boy to a nearby police station. Given that, at the time, they were just minutes from an actual police station, it would have seemed that their story was genuine. But their claims of caring for the boy's welfare were... their boy's welfare... Are there any stories that he never done so far? I'm just curious. Yeah, all these stories are new. Tonight, yeah. But their claims of caring for the boy's welfare were... God, I keep saying it weird. Welfare. But their claims of caring for the boy's welfare were far from true, and it is from here that the real nightmares begins. Real fuck. Man, I screwed that sentence up quite a bit. It's not over yet, Chaffee Girl. I'm sorry. We've got 5 more paragraphs to go. But their claims of caring for the boy's welfare were far from true, and it is from here that the real nightmare begins. Eventually, the boys arrived in the village of Walton, and with Walton Lane Police Station across the road facing them, they hesitated and led James up a steep bank to a railway line near the disused Walton and Anfield Railway Station, close to Anfield Cemetery. Here, they began to torture him. One of the boys threw some of the blue modeling paint they'd previously stolen into young James' left eye. They kicked him, stamping on the boy's fragile body, before throwing bricks and stones at him. Batteries were placed in Bulger's mouth, and, according to police, some batteries may have been inserted into his anus. Finally, the boy... Jesus Christ, this is fucked up. I feel like I kind of heard about this story before, but I didn't know the details. Oh, man. Finally, the boys dropped a heavy iron bar, described in court as a railway fish plate, onto the young James. He sustained 10 skull fractures as a result of the bar striking his head. The case's pathologist later stated that Bulger suffered a total of 42 injuries as a result. Fuck. Can't even keep my words straight. The case's pathologist later stated that Bulger suffered a total of 42 injuries as a result of the assault, so many that it was impossible for him to determine which one had been the fatal blow. Thompson and Venables then laid the dying child across the railroad tracks and weighed his... Oh, Jesus Christ, I can't even read it. This guy... How are you this fucked up as a kid? Holy shit. Thompson and Venables then laid the dying child across the railway tracks and weighted his head down with rubble in hopes that a train would hit him and make his death appear to be purely accidental. After they left the scene, his body was cut in half by a train. Bulger's severed body was discovered 2 days later on Valentine's Day. The same forensic pathologist testified that he had died before he was struck by the train. Police suspect... Jesus. Yikes. I mean, where are these kids' parents? I don't even know. Raise your kids, people, or they will maybe do fucked up shit. Police suspected that let's see, what's another? I don't really want to say the word sexual. Carnal. Yeah, I guess we'd said that before. Carnal is like a thing. Police suspected that there was a carnal element to the crimes since Bulger's shoes, socks, trousers, and underpants had been removed. The pathologist's report, which was read out in court, found that Bulger's foreskin had been forcibly retracted. When Thompson and Venables were questioned about this aspect of the attack by detectives and a child psychiatrist, Eileen Vizard... Oh, okay, that was the shit, sorry. Goodness gracious, this is... What's wrong with saying sexual? Sometimes it, like, triggers in the YouTube algorithm, and you get demonetized for really weird, random stuff. A lot of it's speculation on my part, but I just try to avoid too many swear words and things that kind of outright say things like sex, I guess. When Thompson and Venables were questioned about this aspect of the attack by detectives and a child psychiatrist, Eileen Vizard, the pair were reluctant to give details and also denied inserting some of the batteries into Bulger's anus. At his eventual parole, Venables psychiatrist Susan Bailey reported that, visiting and revisiting the issues with John as a child, and now as an adolescent, he gives no count of any carnal element to the offense. The police quickly found low-resolution video images of Bulger's abduction from the New Strand shopping center by 2 unidentified boys. The railway embankment upon which his body had been discovered was adorned with hundreds of bunches of flowers. The family of one boy, who was detained for questioning but subsequently released, had to flee the city due to threats by vigilantes. The breakthrough came when a woman, on seeing slightly enhanced images of the 2 boys on national television, recognized Venables, who she knew had played truant with Thompson that day. She contacted police and the boys were arrested. The fact that the suspects were so young came as a shock to investigating officers. Early press reports and police statements had referred to James Bulger being seen with 2 youths, which suggesting the killers were in fact teenagers. This was down to the ages of the boys being difficult to ascertain from the images captured by CCTV, but also because it was frankly unbelievable that such a brutal murder. But also because it was frankly unbelievable that such brutal action could be committed by those who were themselves children. Forensic tests confirmed that both boys had the same blue paint on their clothing as found on Bulger's body. Both had blood on their footwear, with the blood on Thompson's shoe being matched to Bulger's through DNA tests. A pattern of bruising on Bulger's right cheek matched the features of the upper part of a shoe worn by Thompson. A paint mark in the toe cap of one of Venable's shoes indicated he must have used some force when he kicked Bulger. In a haunting police interview, Thompson is said to have asked police whether the 2-year-old had been taken to the hospital to get him alive again. The boys were each charged with the murder of James Bulger on the 20th of February 1993, and appeared at South Sefton Youth Court just 2 days later, where they were remanded in custody to await trial. In the aftermath of their arrest and throughout the media accounts of Caitlin, thank you for your comment. I was thinking the same thing. In the aftermath of their arrest, In the aftermath of their arrest and throughout the media accounts of their trial, the boys were referred to only as Child A and Child B. Awaiting trial, they were held in the secure units, where they would eventually be sentenced to be detained indefinitely. The boys, by then aged 11, were found guilty of Bulger's murder at the Preston Court on the 24th of November 1993, becoming the youngest convicted murderers of the 20th century. The presiding judge told Thompson and Venables that they had committed a crime of unparalleled evil and barbarity. In my judgment, your conduct was both cunning and very wicked. He sensed them. Okay, one day I'll figure how to speak. He sentenced them to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure, with a recommendation that they should be kept in custody for very, very many years to come, recommending a minimum term of 8 years. At the close of the trial, the judge lifted reporting restrictions and allowed the names of the killers to be released, saying, "I did this because the public interest overrode the interests of the defendants. There was a need for an informed public debate on crimes committed by young children." Joel is a cop. I am not a cop. I don't know where that started. Content cop. Yeah, that story was very fudged in the head. Fudged in the head. I'm a stripper cop, yeah. I got a sexy cop mustache. That's the only way I could get on the force and be able to let them, let me inside of that cake so I can bust out of it. You need a mustache. It's tough getting all the cake icing off your mustache at the end of a nice stripper birthday. Alright, so this is called Dunblane, which I assume is a place, but I want to make sure I pronounce it right because I think it takes place in Glasgow? I always forget how you pronounce that. You want to get arrested?
Dunblane.
Does that?
Dunblane.
How do you say Dunblane? Is it just? Oh yeah, it's Glasgow. Where's Glasgow? Is that? She said Scotland. cocoon you in soothing sound waves. Absolutely.
Glasgow or Glasgow.
Glasgow. Glasgow. Okay. So Glasgow and what is Dunblane? Dunblane? Oh. Sometimes typing a definition after the word helps you get a pronunciation on one of those like dictionary websites.
Dunblane.
Dunblane. Glasgow. Joel's a great stripper because he's got stamina. Remember that. When you're looking for a stripper, you're going to want one with stamina. Glasgow. Okay. Glasgow. Gigolo. Scotland will soon be an independent country. It'll be interesting. Wonder how things will play out there. Not to start any controversial conversation, obviously. You know me, I'm not a controversial kind of guy. Yeah, Coke will get you through every stripper experience. It's carried me through it. Yeah, baby. Hey, we're almost at 500. Well, not really, but getting close to 500 people. Click that like button if you haven't already. We're going to bang out this last story. You've got your mouth full of marbles. That's how you get that Glasgow. 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 Glasgow? Okay. But nobody knows Dunblane. Glasgow. I'm just going to say Dunblane, and if I get it wrong, this is your guys' fault, not mine. At about 8:15 a.m. on the morning of Wednesday the 13th of March 1996, Thomas Hamilton, a 43-year-old former shopkeeper from Glasgow, was seen scraping ice off his van outside his home at Kent Road in Stirling. He departed shortly afterwards, driving about 5 miles north to the south town of Dunblane. Hamilton arrived at Dunblane shit. You just sounded like you just walked out of Texas. Hell yeah. Reese, what's up? Joy, love your narration, bro. I'm sure to tune in my earphones every night, never missing a single video. Thank you, Joy. I'm glad I can be a joy to you. Hamilton arrived at Dunblane Primary School at around 9:30 that morning and parked his van near a telephone pole in the car park of the school. Hamilton then cut the cables at the bottom of the telephone pole, severing communications to several nearby houses before making his way across the car park towards the school buildings. Hamilton had intended to cut phone lines to the school itself, but had selected the wrong... This sounds bad already. We're off to a good start. You cringe every time you see a Karen. Karens are everywhere. A lot of people think Karens are boomers, but as we discussed earlier, people get offended by things that are just young Karens. Zoomer Karens, or Zarens. You messaged me on Facebook. Oh yeah, I don't check the messages on Facebook. The only DMs that I really come across are the Instagram ones or Twitter ones. I just don't really use Facebook anymore. It just seems to be kind of a waste. But I do see that there's when I do check it from time to time, there's a large amount of inbox messages on there, and I just don't look at them. Hamilton had intended to cut phone lines to the school itself, but had selected the wrong telegraph pole. He then headed towards the northwest side of the school to a door leading to the toilets in the school gymnasium. After entering, he made his way to the gymnasium, and the gym was... Wait, fuck, there was no period there. Okay. Maryland Whirlwind with a 10. Thank you. #1 fan. Thank you, Maryland. It's a cool name. Maryland Whirlwind. Sounds like an author or something badass. Do I usually reply to everyone back? I try to... Can't say everybody, but I enjoy chatting. And I enjoy positive things. Unless there's someone messaging me bad things, like they're mad at me, then I'm like, whatever. Of course, that doesn't happen too often. Megan, you listened to me a lot recently. I'm glad. I'm glad you're here. Hamilton had intended to cut the phone lines to the school itself, but had selected the wrong telegraph pole. He then headed towards the northwest side of the school to a door leading to the toilets in the school gymnasium. After entering, he made his way to the gymnasium. In the gym was a class of 28 7 and 8-year-old pupils preparing for a PE lesson, being supervised. Alright, let me see. After entering, he made his way to the gymnasium. Sorry, I'm just so screwed up here. That doesn't have a period in it, and it just confused the shit out of me. Yes, my name is Joel. Joel. I'm doing well, Bonus. How are you? Joel Mama. You want to speak to the manager of... Fry is offended and wants to speak to the manager of Let's Read. I love... They're so funny. Like, the memes that someone had posted on the Discord was like... You know, someone put like one of the Karen heads on like a special ops soldier, and it's like, I want to speak to the manager of Iran. You know, whenever the World War III memes were going. And then it was like someone, you know, like a Karen doing like yoga. And it was like, have you ever attempted speaking to the manager within? It's like, that's amazing. You want tater tots? Tater tots, where are you? After entering, he Dude, I keep reading the same shit. Or no, I'm not. Fuck, sorry. After entering, he made his way to the gymnasium. In the gym was a class of 28 7 and 8-year-old pupils preparing for a PE lesson, being supervised by 3 adult members of staff. Before Hamilton entered the gym, the staff heard 2 loud bangs coming from the hallway outside. Then, after entering the gymnasium, and as he was about to be confronted by Eileen Harold, the PE teacher in charge of the lesson, he started shooting rapidly and randomly, armed with 4 legally held handguns, 2 9mm... Jesus Christ. 2 9mm Browning HP pistols and 2 Smith & Wesson M19 357 Magnum revolvers. He was also carrying 743 rounds of ammunition. He shot one of the supervising teachers, who received wounds to their arms and chest as she attempted to protect herself, and continued shooting into the gymnasium. The wounded teacher then Sorry. Geez, these 2 last stories are like sort of documentary types, but they're fucking heavy as shit. It's so scary, man. Scary stuff. So much evil out there, you know? The wounded teacher then stumbled into the open plan store cupboard at the side of the gym along with several other injured children. Wait, I don't know why I keep messing up. Oh fuck, my mom's calling me. Shit. Fuck. Alright, well, let me finish this and then I'll call her back. Oh, crap. Alright, shit. Alright. The wounded teacher then stumbled into the open plan store cupboard at the side of the gym along with several... I can't even read this. The wounded teacher then stumbled into the open plan store cupboard at the side of the gym along with several injured children. Gwen Mayer, the class's teacher, was shot through the heart and died instantly. The other adult present was shot in the head and both legs, but also managed to make her way to the store cupboard and with several of the children in front of her. In the time it took to reach the gymnasium and take a few steps inside, Hamilton had fired 29 shots with the pistols, killing one child and injuring several others. 4 injured children had taken shelter in the store cupboard along with the injured teachers, Harold and Blake. Hamilton then made his way up the east side of the gym, firing as he walked. He then walked towards the center of the gym, firing 16 shots at point-blank range towards a group of terrified children who had been incapacitated by the bullets he had previously fired. An older pupil, who was walking along the west side of the gym building at the time he heard loud... An older pupil who was walking along the west side of the gym building at the time heard loud bangs and screams and looked inside the gym. Hamilton shot in his direction and the pupil was injured by flying glass before running away. From this position, Hamilton fired 24 shots in seemingly random directions. He fired shots towards a window next to the fire exit at the southeast end of the gym, possibly at an adult who was walking across the playground, and then fired 4 more shots in the same direction after opening the fire exit door. Hamilton then exited the gym briefly through the fire exit, firing another 4 shots towards the cloakroom of the library, striking and injuring Grace Tweddle, another member of the staff of the school. In the mobile classroom closet to the fire exit where Hamilton was standing, Catherine Gordon saw him firing shots and instructed her class to get down onto the floor before Hamilton fired 9 bullets into the classroom, striking books and equipment. 1 bullet passed through a chair where a child had been sitting seconds before. Hamilton then re-entered the gym. Hamilton then re-entered the gym. Fuck, I keep squeaking. You slept? Oh, Robin, you slept for 4 hours. Welcome, Robin. Welcome. It's good to see you. Guys, Robin is the good man who made the animation you're seeing behind on the screen right now. I guess not behind me, but on the screen. How long does it usually take for a story from the subreddit to get to an episode? It depends. I've been doing more subscriber stories lately. I actually had a troll on there today. They posted like freaking 20 different things and I had to ban them because they were just like jokes, like short little puns and joke setups and all this other random shit. And it was very annoying. So I would appreciate if you do post something on there that it's, content. No, I'm going to call my mom. It's just, I know it's going to be bad news because of what I had mentioned earlier in the stream. So it's just like, I don't really feel like I'm just going to get this over with. Hamilton then re-entered the gym, dropped the pistol he was using, and took out one of the 2 revolvers he was packing. He put the barrel of the gun in his mouth, pointed it upwards, and pulled the trigger. A total of 32 people sustained gunshot wounds inflicted by Hamilton over a 4-minute period, 16 of whom were fatally wounded in the gymnasium, which included Mayer and 15 of her pupils. The first call to the police was made at 9:41 a.m. The call was made by the headmaster of the school, Ronald Taylor, who had been alerted by a colleague of the possibility of a gunman on the school premises. Taylor had also heard screaming inside the gymnasium and had seen what he thought to be cartridges on the ground. Taylor had been aware of loud noises which he assumed to have been from builders on site that he had not been informed of. As he was on his way to the gym, the shooting ended, and when he saw what had happened, he ran back to his office and told the deputy headmistress to call for ambulances. Oh, excuse me, sorry. As he was on his way to the gym, the shooting ended, and when he saw what happened, As he was on his way to the gym, the shooting ended, and when he saw what happened, he ran back to his office and told the deputy headmistress to call for ambulances, a second emergency call which was made at 9:43 a.m. The first ambulance arrived on the scene just 14 minutes later. Just another medical team from Dunblane Health Center arrived shortly after, which included doctors and a nurse who were involved in the initial resuscitation of the injured. The accident and emergency department at Stirling Royal Infirmary had also been informed of a major incident involving multiple casualties at 9:48 a.m., and they had dispatched ambulance crews from several nearby areas to help all the wounded. By about 11:10 a.m., all of the injured had been taken to Stirling Royal Infirmary for medical treatment, with one child dying en route to the hospital. Upon examination, several of the patients were transferred to the District Royal Infirmary in Falkirk and some of the Royal Hospital for Sick Children in Glasgow. As it turned out, there had been several complaints to police regarding Hamilton's behavior towards the young boys who attended the youth clubs he was discovered to have ran. Claims have been made of what the fuck? Claims? How do you say this? Claims have been made of his having taken... Oh, okay. Claims have been made of having... Fuck. Claims have been made of his having taken photographs of semi-nude boys without parental consent. Fuck. Claims have been made of his having taken photographs of semi-nude boys without parental consent. Hamilton had briefly been a scout leader, but as previously stated, complaints were made about his leadership, including 2 occasions when scouts were forced to sleep with Hamilton in his van during hill-walking expeditions. Within months of his appointment, Hamilton's scout warrant was withdrawn, with the county commissioner stating that he was suspicious of his moral intentions towards boys. He was blacklisted by the association and thwarted in a later attempt he made... He was blacklisted by the association and thwarted in a later attempt to... Let's spread shit. Yeah, there you go. Let's dive into dog poop. He was blacklisted by the association and thwarted in a later attempt he made to become a scout leader in another Scottish constituency. Hamilton claimed in letters that rumors about him led to the failure of his shop business in 1993, and in the last months of his life he complained again that his attempts to organize a boys' club were subjugated to persecution by local police and the scout movement. Among those he complained to were a local member of Parliament, but also, shockingly enough, to Queen Elizabeth. In the 1980s, another MP who lived in Dunblane had complained about Hamilton's local boys' club, which his son had attended. On the day following the massacre, Robertson spoke of having previously argued... Fuck. Your dog trapped himself in a circle of poop. That's funny. On the day following the massacre, Robertson spoke of having previously argued with Hamilton in his own home. No doubt he felt he'd had a lucky escape with a deranged and violent psychopath. On the 19th of March, 1996, a mere 6 days after the brutal, horrifying massacre, Hamilton's body was cremated. According to police spokesman, this service was conducted far away from Dunblane. Just watched the Rosen Maiden video. Yeah, that may have been my second video ever, I think, after the I did one about like a general that worked on the Manhattan Project for the nuclear bomb. I literally went to Wikipedia and just like my plan was when I first started the channel to just like click random topics on Wikipedia and just read those. And slowly that evolved into finding that I wanted to have success on YouTube, so I found creepypastas and tried that for a while and eventually found myself here. But initially I was just kind of like, and I wasn't even going to edit because editing back in the day used to take like quite a bit of time. And I remember I actually kept some of my mistakes in. Oh, fuck. My mom's calling again. Well, guys, let me just end this real quick. Read the outro. Fuck. Let me think of something to say here. If you guys think of something funny. Hey, friends, thanks for reading. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let's Read Official, and give and receive feedback from the community, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And join my Discord to interact with me and other listeners directly. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merch on Spreadshirt. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all these stories in long compilation form and save huge on data. Located anywhere you listen to podcasts. Links in the bio. Thanks so much, friends. And maybe I'll say that thing by, what's his name? Carlin. The old Carlin quote about PC. Of course, as soon as I type it into, it's like, political correctness, how the right invented a phantom enemy. Like, oh my god. You cannot avoid anything political in this world. Where's George Carlin? There it is. Thanks so much, friends. And remember, political correctness is just fascism pretending to be manners. Alright. I apologize for any negativity on the stream tonight. It was just earlier in the day. I just got a little bit rubbed the wrong way there. And here's a good song for you to see me on the way out. I will be on Discord later, so guys, go join the Discord and chat with people there, make friends, be nice to each other, of course. And then I might be on later and I'll kind of fill you in on what's going on. It's just kind of obviously some issues to get figured out, but enjoy Grimes. This is her best song. And it's very inspirational to me. Also, this video will be out tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And early access on Patreon, obviously, and the Mr. Lazy Masquerade shall be on there as well. So looking forward to seeing both of us and seeing all of you guys there. Peace out. Alright, see you guys.